What's good, YouTube? And welcome to some ban list talk. Now, the OCG just dropped a bombshell of a ban list on their community. It's a really crazy one that shakes things up, and we often get these kind of slap on the wrist ban lists versus the OCG, but we got one of the rare articles from a KONAMI contracted employee themselves who has insight into the minds of the people who make the ban list on the reasonings for the bans themselves / limits, semi-limits, that sort of stuff. So let's go ahead and look through, but there is a side conversation about articles like these because they're so rare, and Master Duel Links, they don't have a problem really explaining the ban list, but KONAMI TCG tends to, so people want a softer cushion placed down for KONAMI so this communication might flow forward. I get you want free ban list content and reactions to this kind of stuff, but our ban list runs very different to the OCG ban list, mainly around money and reprint sets. So they just released unlimited power of the elements, which is a move I agree with. They also put unlimited starlights in there, which I actually think is a good move, except KONAMI did say they would not do unlimited starlight, so they're trying to still sell power of the elements, so you get a bit of smoke blown up your rear end when it comes to explanations on why they just didn't hit a strategy, and they try to seem really strong against that strategy that's tier 0 taken over in this article, but you know what really happened. So I feel like saying you shouldn't be overly critical or point out those things. No, we're going to talk about them directly when we're addressing this article. Now, it is by Michael KONAMI, I believe, down here at the bottom, and again, he has direct access to the minds who make the ban list, right? A new forbidden and limited list for the advanced format just took effect December 1st, and is currently in play for the YCS Remote Duel. Check out the big changes that were made and will affect this weekend's competition. Newly forbidden, Mystic Mine, which everybody cheered for but did feel was a little late, and Curious, the Lightsworn Dominion, have joined the forbidden list. Mystic Mine had recently become a key card in competitive dueling, forcing many duelists to include cards in their deck that can get it off the field or risk losing once a Mystic Mine is played. Now, recently is a bit of a stretch. I think there's a Farfa video begging for it to be banned in 2020 that's been circulating, but when it comes down to these reasonings, it is in tune with the community at least, and I do like the wording that comes up here. With Mystic Mine now forbidden, duelists no longer need to consider the possibility of this controversial field spell card stalling a duel for several consecutive turns. Again, probably longer than several turns, but when we look at this, it shows that they're paying attention to the community when they use a word like controversial, and they also talk about having to play the outs, draw the outs, that sort of thing. And I think that's a good direction that they are using that wording specifically, that controversial. Like, they hear you in the community, and even if they don't act on it directly and immediately, they still know the vibe of the card, right? Curious, the Lightsworn Dominion was a popular card, especially among Tearlaments duelists. Now, this was sending Fairy Tale Snow. It was doing work in Branded. Yeah, Tearlament can use it and access it, but I don't think this hit should be sold as a Tearlament hit. Like, Curious can do broken things as more as I see it than just a Tearlament card in support, because it was adept at sending cards from the deck to the graveyard. Perhaps most importantly, it's able to send a card of your choosing to the grave if it's link summoned by sending highly impactful cards like Eradicator and Deck Devi to the grave. So again, mentioning things that were more branded plays here while selling it as Tearlament hits overall, although you could do it in both. Duelists were able to return those cards to the field with Nightmare Griffin, and that's the old combo used even back in Goki format, right? The addition of Curious to the Forbidden list prevents this from happening and deals a blow to decks like Tearlament that made the most effective use of Curious. Again, I kind of feel like Branded actually did the most with that, right? But again, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think it was that big of a blow to Tearlaments, or do you think it's starting to really try to sell that they were tough on this without the direct hits that were doing sales, as I kind of see this article for? Now, this one, upcoming, despite my criticism, is probably the best actual hit as well as the best sold hit on Tearlaments. Newly limited. Tearlaments have been dominating the advanced format of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game ever since the release of Magnificent Mavens and the Fairy-type Ishizu cards. Those decks typically use 3 copies of Herald of the Orange Light because it could stop an opponent's monster effect while sending one of the Ishizu cards to the graveyard, allowing the effect of the sent monster to be used. The new limitation of Herald of the Orange Light weakens the Tearlament decks that incorporated the Fairy-type Ishizu monsters from Magnificent Mavens. So they even say this interacts with our new product specifically, it interacts with the top deck, and we're going to hit this down for consistency's sake. I think that was short, sweet, pretty good, and pretty accurate. Newly semi-limited. Leerlusk Recital Starling was previously limited and has now been bumped up to 2 copies per deck effective December 1st. The Leerlusk strategy hasn't recently been popular in competitive dueling, so this change may give them a much needed boost. My opinion on this is it was more the Tri-Brigade Leerlusk strategy that was doing this. They were going to F0, so the play's not even getting called out at this point. But it is pretty much that it's been power crept, and I think this explanation still hits on that enough, but not directly where it was being played and why it got removed. Removed from the Forbidden and Limited list. A whopping 5 cards were removed from the Forbidden and Limited list, effectively December 1st. 2 of those cards, Dimensional Fissure and Macros Cosmos, were previously both limited to 1. Floodgate Yeps, like Skill Drain, right? Both of these cards remain on the field after they're activated and will banish any key card that would be sent to a Tearlament Duelist graveyard. So they're trying to say this is their answer to Tearlaments, even though they're not directly hitting them and hitting the support around them and that sort of stuff. I just don't buy it. I think they continuously want to shrink the ban list and also want to seem tough on them while still selling their product, and that's the balance here. Generally, this will completely shut down Tearlament Duelist plays, since virtually all of the monsters in a Tearlament deck need to be sent to the graveyard to use their most powerful effects. The removal of these 2 cards from the Forbidden and Limited list gives other decks the power they need to defeat Tearlament decks, and no, not really. Tellarknight Ptolemaeus, which I missed on my reaction video, which was just removed from the Forbidden list in the latest update, can serve as a similar function to Dimensional Fissure and Macro because you can Xe summon it and go straight into Constellar Diamond, which players did immediately notice and bought out, by using it as a material as a Tellarknight monster you control, like Tellarknight Ptolemaeus, as an Xyz material. While this is on the field, neither player can send cards from the deck to the graveyard, and any card that returns to the graveyard to the hand is banished instead. Again, trying to point out these specific plays and the ways you play them and what it does as a Tearlament anti-strategy just doesn't sit right with me. Like, it's a card that probably was past its prime on being banned. It usually ends up putting a negate on board with Infinity back in the day, and while you have access to this play, any Tellarknight monster kind of strategy could have done this anyways without this card, and this specific play, it's just like, okay. It's there. You shouldn't be selling this as, again, we're so strong on Tearlaments. We're so good against them. In addition, so Tellarknight Constellar Diamond can give an Xyz material to negate activations of dark monsters with effects and destroy it, which comes in handy against many popular monsters. Again, the best attribute, right? Finally, Metaverse and Fire Formation Tenki were removed from the Forbidden and Limited list entirely. Metaverse, which was previously limited, was most often used to get Mystic Mine from the deck. Now with Mystic Mine on the Forbidden list, duelists can use more copies of Metaverse to help them get field spell cards they need. Fire Formation Tenki was previously semi-limited and removed from the Forbidden list entirely on December 1st. Tenki is a key card for improving consistency of decks that rely on Beast Warriors, including decks utilizing Tri-Brigade. Decks usually built around Beast Warriors haven't been recently popular in competitive dueling due to the dominance of Tearlaments and Sprite strategies, but being able to use an extra copy of Tenki may help out some of the duelists still relying on Beast Warriors to win. It reminds me of the Hulk meme where he drops the tacos for Ant-Man. Here you go. That's kind of what it reminds me of a little bit. I think it's an okay explanation. I think it's an okay move. Same with Metaverse. It was pretty obvious it came off due to Mystic Mine, but it's nice to have an explanation like this written down that just doesn't go, oh, we took care of Tearlaments pretty well, right? The latest Forbidden and Limited list update isn't the most drastic one we've seen. Nice to see them take that head on, but it weakens the Tearlament decks that dominate the 3 most recent YCS events. Harold did that, yeah, I guess, but how hard you sold it was a bit overdone. YCS Pasadena, YCS Dortmund, and YCS Costa Rica. This weekend's remote dual YCS is the first YCS event in which the new Forbidden Unlimited list is in effect, so we'll soon see the impact it's having. I don't think it's having the impact your article's selling, but we'll have to wait and see how things actually chop up, how everything's going, and my final words are this, and the YCS is still actually taking place today. I'm going to get to check into it soon. I was locked out of my house. You can call me just Champ now. My wife rescued me with the key, but that's all aside. I'm going to catch up here soon. I think communication like this is a good thing, but when you start to kind of say, hey, we should be nice so they do this more often, Konami puts themselves in the situation in driver's seat to do this sort of thing, whether there's a reaction, controversy, however it goes around these articles, and it's also on the community to shoot and keep them honest, like a company that says they're not going to do Starlights except for in first edition product, then we have them in Unlimited, you know, with Power of the Elements, because they know it's the only way to sell the set, and there's zero explanation on that. So a company that says one thing and does the other, sometimes it's going to happen right in front of you, and I think those are fine conversations to have, and not everything needs to be rosy and awesome, and oh yeah, let's tell you, we're so great, they're talking to us. That's not really how a community is supposed to act. We're supposed to have highs and lows, goods and bads. We're supposed to be able to talk through things such as this, and it doesn't all have to be a cheery cakewalk. Thanks for watching today's video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the conversation. I think I was pretty fair overall. Might have been jaded a little by the years, but I think this was a fine article besides the oversell on the Tearlaments stuff. Thanks for watching, everybody.